You need to understand diabetes is more than a touch of sugar.
My name is Dr. Patricia Smith. I am a physiotherapist and a senior lecturer at the University of East London.
My advice to people who have diabetes, whether it's type 1 or type 2, is to prevent the complications of diabetes.
This is something that can be addressed through lifestyle factors.
Le conseil à donner aux jeunes est qu'ils ne se livrent pas seulement au plaisir.
Merci beaucoup. Nga nata kiskituba nazali pour le moment nazali chair ya Saleh Health Project nazali charité ya francophone tout un projet tout ça la conférence de là à l'université East London comme bengango et la conférence mondiale sur le diabète et tout ça est funding na l'autre il y a un professeur d'université qui va parler, Patricia, Dr Patricia. Il y a aussi l'ambassadeur de diabète UK NHS qui va parler. C'est la communauté congolaise en fait qui devrait être bénéficiaire de ça. Et pas seulement les Congolais, mais aussi tous les French speakers. So I'm Marcus Kituba, the coordinator of Congolese community, but here I'm the chair of Saleh Health Project, which is a registered charity. We received some funding to organize a conference on diabetes. We've got even a professor of University of East London, Dr. Patricia, who is going to be the main speaker. And we also have the ambassador of the Diabetes UK, the NHS ambassador of Diabetes UK, Tony from Birmingham, who is going to be one of the speakers. And we've also Congolese who are going to talk about their experience in this country.
We're going to welcome now Dr. Smith. She's our main speaker. She's going to be talking about diabetes, and then after she finishes, we're going to ask questions.
Put the table.
I think we're going to,
yes, table.
We're going to have enough time to ask questions because sometimes when it comes to diabetes or the disease,
yes,
we are lost, and then people want to find out whether she should go to the traditional way or classic medicine. We don't know, so
yes,
we're going to provide us with all this information.
Yes.
And then be ready to
yes,
to respond or to answer to all questions that we got.
yes, okay.
Thank you. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Let's welcome Dr. Smith.
Okay. Okay.
Do you want to sit down? I'm retiring for you.
Okay. Well.
Yeah.
I'll just rest my notes here for the time being, and you know, I'm really pleased to be here today and to be able to share with you my own experiences, my own understanding of this topic of diabetes, you know. And I'm especially want to say thanks to Mr. Woyelo, Dr. Woyelo, for inviting me, because we met at a number of our diabetes conferences that I host each year at the University of East London. And he approached me and said that he wanted me to come and share some of my experience with your group, How you're functioning, very good. And that word function is a very big word, you know. because as a physiotherapist, I should have said I'm a physiotherapist, and I teach physiotherapy at the university, but I also teach in public health research methods. And function is one of the things that is very important for us as physiotherapists, to get people to function properly. So very good. Anybody else? Lifestyle. Okay, I'm going to let you come up and teach my lecture. Come up. Come up. All right? Lifestyle. Very good. So health really is about having the right balance in life. Why health? This is a quote. This is somebody that I read, because I like to read a lot. And from this quote it says, your spiritual ability is rooted in the proper care and nutrition of your body. Your spirit is nourished by how you manage your body. Understand that there is a body, mind, spirit connection, right? Your body, your physical body is not just this physical body, but you have a mind, you have a spirit, and so for those of you who understand spirituality. But today we're not talking about spirituality, but we're talking about the importance of having the right kind of balance in life to promote health, okay? Health has a variety of definitions. There's so many different definitions about health. The World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of infirmity. So I suspect that I'll be talking to people in the audience who might have some knowledge of the topic of diabetes. And if you don't, well, this is an opportunity for you to learn, or to share what you've learned. And so I just want to make it really interactive, all right? So that we're connecting, all right? Now, how many of you know what diabetes is? You're not allowed, Tony. You're not allowed. Put your hand down. How many of you know what diabetes is? Okay. How many of you have family members or friends who have? Okay. All right. So tell me what you know about diabetes, because I need to know if I need to pack up my books and go home. All right? So what do you know about diabetes? Anybody? Go ahead.
High level of sugar in the blood.
High level of sugar in the blood. That's a nice start. Very good. What else?
Inability to control blood glucose.
Inability to control blood glucose. Very good. One more person. One more person. Yes, I see. Good. Sorry?
I don't know if it's the right answer.
Insulin? Very good. You know, so insulin, there's a problem with insulin. All right. So, okay. So at least I know that you have some understanding of some of the technical terms. Now, I'm going to try not to be too technical, right? And make it accessible to you. But you know, there's some things you cannot avoid using certain words and so forth, because they are important to understanding diabetes, okay? I want you to take time to read that. Just take time to read that. Very short. It's not a complete definition, but it gives you some idea. So, this here tells you a little bit, and this is just a diagram I tried to show. Now, this is your blood. You know, glucose is a chronic, it can be a chronic, long-lasting condition, but it doesn't have to be. Right? These are some definitions, because information is always changing, but it affects how your body turns food into energy. You eat food to get energy. If you don't eat food, you can't get energy. Your body breaks down most of your food you eat into sugar. And another name for sugar is glucose. That's the technical name, glucose. But we say sugar. You know, in Jamaica, say, boy, you know, me have sugar, you know. That's what they would say in Jamaica, meaning that they said they have diabetes, right? But glucose, and it releases it into your bloodstream. When your blood sugar goes up, it signals your pancreas to release insulin. Somebody said the word insulin. Insulin is a hormone that acts like a key to let the blood sugar into your body's cell to use it as energy. So in other words, every time you eat, you will produce glucose. It's a natural process. It must happen because glucose is one of the main ingredients to produce energy. There's a substance called ATP, which is about energy, and it takes place within the cells. But for the energy, for the blood sugar to get into your cells, the insulin acts like a little key. You know, a key that opens up a door to go in, and that's what the insulin does. With diabetes, your body does not make enough insulin. It might not make enough insulin for whatever reason, or it can't use it as well as it should. Okay? So sometimes you hear the word insulin insensitivity. You know, the sugar, the insulin is just insensitive. The sugar is insensitive, so it doesn't act as it should. When there isn't enough insulin or cells stop responding to insulin, too much blood sugar stays in your bloodstream. Over time, that can cause serious health problems such as heart disease, vision loss, kidney disease, and a lot of other problems. Now, I always like to use this example of what it is. Suppose we're all in a room. But before I go to that, if you look at this diagram, this is glucose, right? You see there's not a lot of glucose in the bloodstream here. But here, in diabetes, you have much more glucose in the bloodstream that's not getting into the cells. And that causes a problem, right? So I always like to use this example. And the example is, if you're in a room and there are few people in the room, not too much, and you all think of yourself as all little glucose. You're all little glucose molecules. It's not too much. And somebody says, fire, 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 fire. And you all go to the door, right? You open the door, insulin opens the door, right? And you can all get out, right? That's going into the cell. So it's fine. But suppose just a few of us here. Suppose there was about 1,000 of us here. 1,000 glucose in the bloodstream. And the fire. And everybody's pushing towards the door. Everybody's pushing to the walls. They can't get in because people are pushing, huddling up together. There's a lot of, so the blood cannot get into the blood, into the cells. And the build up of sugar in the blood. And then if that opens over time, long period of time, you get diabetes. A condition, it's not a disease, as my colleague will always remind us. It's not a disease, it's a condition. Part of your digestive system, and it's cuddled right there, and there's your gallbladder. And it sits right here, right up here, right in this little, put your hand right here. Yeah, put your hand right here, right up here, just under the liver. It's right embedded under the liver. That's where it is, right? So sometimes when you see people putting on weight, they put on weight around here. A lot of diabetics, yeah? People with diabetes. So, again, this is it. This is in relation to the liver, right? The liver is right here. Put your hand right here on the right side. See? On the right side. This is the liver right here. This is the gallbladder. And then the pancreas is just somewhere inside here, right? Right underneath the liver, right? Okay, so have an understanding of where these things are anatomically. And yes, I explained all of this already. This is just about adipose tissue and glucose. So what is diabetes? Diabetes is really part of a complex set or series of processes which are related to your immune system. All right? It's really related to your immune system because your immune system is very important in fighting off infection and disease. And when you suffer from diabetes, or when you are experiencing diabetes in your body, then you have more risk of developing diseases, right, or developing infection. You know how I describe it? Think of how many of you drink syrup?
Drunk by the past, yes. By the past.
In the past? Right. Syrup is a very thick thing. Now, if you put a little bit of syrup in water, it becomes thin and nice and so forth, all right? And you can drink it. But if you put too much syrup, it becomes thick and viscous, right? And that is what happens when you have too much glucose in the blood. It's thick and viscous, and it doesn't flow very well. So that's why you have things like atherosclerosis, you have things like cardiovascular problems, you have things like plaques in the blood vessels, you develop infections easily, you have peripheral neuropathy, that is tingling and numbness in the legs and feet, sometimes in the fingers, and all of these things because things are not moving properly through the blood vessels. The blood is not breathing properly through the blood vessels. And I've put these two links here. If you take a screenshot if you want, and these two links, you can go to this and look at some original articles which talk about that. Oh, thank you very much. Oh, very much. Thank you. It's getting a bit thirsty there. All right. So let's go on. Everybody got that?
Yes.
Type 2 diabetes and this is just to show you the complexity. Type 2 diabetes, liver, it affects the muscles because you get fat laid down in the muscles and therefore you get fatty tissues, you lose muscle mass, especially if you're not exercising. You can get what's called leaky gut because of infections. There's a strong relationship between diabetes and the gut microbiome. Now, I'm sure you've heard a lot of talk about the gut and the importance of the gut-brain and axis, and that it's important. Good health starts in the gut. But we're not going with that. And that's why the foods that you eat is going to be very important. The intestines, then, fat storage, and so many other things. The pancreas, the blood vessels, and the immune cells, which play a very important part in bringing down infection in people with diabetes. All right? So that's just a bit of an image to show you the complexity of this condition called diabetes, type 2 diabetes. All right? So what are some of the common signs and symptoms of diabetes? So you might have heard of this. Increased thirst, going to the toilet often, hungry often, weight loss or sometimes weight gain, becoming tired, fatigued, blurred vision. When I'm teaching my students at university, I say I'm going to give you a quiz, right? All of you who don't pass, you're going to come and see me personally. All right? No, I'm not saying that to you now. But I want you to be able to not just listen. I want you to understand, take it in, and make changes for yourself. Is everybody following me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, this is what you're going to do. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
We're going to test yourself. If you agree with the questions that come up, put your thumbs up like that. If you disagree with the questions that come up, do this. Right? And who is going to be? Mr. Tony, I'm going to ask you to look at that. You can't do the quiz, you know. Right. No, you can't do. You're exempt from it. All right? But I'm going to ask you to count. All right? Count and let's see if our students are learning. Okay? Are you ready for the first question?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Ready.
Ready? Good. Another name for sugar is glucose. Let me see. Yeah? Let me see any thumbs. 100%. 100%. Very good. Insulin is produced by nerve cells. Very good. Are they good, Tony? Yes. Next question. Insulin is produced by the pancreas. Okay, you see how I made it easy for you? So you can all get 100%. Very, very good. All right then, quiz is done. That was an easy quiz, isn't it? My name is Dr. Patricia Smith. I am a physiotherapist and a senior lecturer at the University of East London. I was really happy to give a very brief talk at this event today by the Salem Health Project. And just to say that we were talking about diabetes, what it is. You know, diabetes is a problem of the insulin in our bodies, where we are unable to control the blood sugar levels properly in our body because of either our insulin not working well, or you know, our insulin not being sensitive to the level of glucose in the blood, and can cause buildup of glucose in the bloodstream, therefore giving rise to diabetes. And this is mostly in the case of type 2 diabetes. This is something that can be addressed through lifestyle factors, you know, being physically active, involving yourself in some form of exercise, you making sure that you eat the right nutritious foods that are low glycemic foods, and to make sure that you get enough sleep, that you're properly hydrated, do not become dehydrated, and that you also take time out to do some simple breathing exercises that can help to relax you, bring more oxygen into the body, and therefore help your diabetic condition. Literature and statistics have shown that diabetes is disproportionately prevalent amongst African, Caribbean people, South Asian people, and so forth. And there are maybe many reasons for that. You know, part of it may be cultural, part of it may be hereditary, lifestyle factors, and so forth. And that's why it is important for our community to take this seriously in terms of their health, in terms of their lifestyle practices, and to try to do the things that are important to improve their health through diet, lifestyle exercises, you know, and just trying to maintain a stress-free life as much as possible. And exercise to bring more oxygen to the lungs to improve insulin sensitivity. It also helps with relaxation and stress. And then I'm going to show you some very Qigong exercise, simple Qigong movements that you can do at nighttime. That will help sleep, okay? Yeah. So let's go to the first one. We're going to do some warm-up. So you're going to follow those people. First of all, I want you all to stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Good. Stand up. Very good. All right, now. I want you to stretch up. Stretch your arms up. Stretch right up. Stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch and stretch. And bend to your left. Bend to your left and stretching out those body. Very good. Up. And then bend to your right. Stretching your bodies. Very good. And up. Good. Down and shake it out. Shake it out. Okay, shake it out. Not done yet, you know. Still have some more. Right. Up again. And twist to your left. Twist to your left. Twist. Good. Twist to your right. Good. Very good. And in front, come forward again. Step, stretch backwards as far back as you can, so you're looking at the ceiling. Stretch back, and then come forward and touch your toes. Let me see how many of you can touch your toes. Touch your toes, touch your toes, touch your toes, and stretch down and touch your toes. Let me see. Keep that. I'm going to look to see who can stretch your toe, touch your toes. Who is touching their toes? Yeah, good, very good. Those who can't touch your scores, you're going to have to do 10 press-ups. 10 press-ups. Okay, and up. Very good, very good. I know you're an active man. Right, so, okay, so now, you're going to just shake a little bit. Shake a little bit. Shake, and that shaking is good. Because you know when you want to get something out of a bottle or out of a jar, what you do? You shake it up, and shimmy. Shimmy, shake and shimmy. So you get the, very good. I like your style because you get the blood flowing, you get things going and shake. Very good. I like that one. You do it with an attitude, isn't it? And do you, okay, and shake it up, shake it up. And then now move your arms. Very good. Up and down. Very good. Don't you feeling good already? All right. You know, anytime I do these exercises in a group, I never see anybody with a sad face, you know. Never, you can't have a sad face and exercise. You have to smile. Okay, good. And now march on the spot. Just march. Move your legs around. Move your legs. Simple things. No, you don't have to go pay £25 a month or £50 a month to go to the gym. If you don't want to, you can do it right home. You know your home is a gym, you know. Did you know your home is a gym? Your desk is a gym as well. Just marching, lifting those, come on, let me see you lifting those feet. Let me see, very good, lifting up, lifting up, lifting up, good. And relax, good. So that was our warm up. We did some stretches, we did some flexibility exercises, we did some strengthening and so forth. Okay, all right, so now, everybody okay? Yeah. Those who were sleeping in my class are now awake, right? Okay, have a seat, have a seat. Now we've done some warm-up exercises. Now I'm going to teach you how to breathe properly. After you've done your exercise, we're going to learn how to breathe properly. Breath work and sitting posture. Now, most of us, very good, very good, very good, I like that. You see how that lady is sitting in this picture? That's how you're supposed to be sitting. Most of us sit and slouch, you know. Most of us sit and slouch because we are in the habit of just dropping our shoulders. A lot of us sit like this. We sit like this.
Yeah, tiredness.
What happens with that is that the lungs, remember I showed the picture of the lungs. The lungs up here will not get enough space to breathe, to open up when you're doing this. Right, so you've got to sit. You know, so she's sitting on erect. She's sitting on the edge of her seat like this. And in your back, I want you to put your hand right in the low back like this. You notice that there's a little curve. There's a little curve. Right, that is what we call a lordosis. It's a normal, natural curve in the back. And when you can feel that curve, it means that you're sitting upright, you're sitting properly. All right? So I want to see everybody sitting up properly. I'm going to come and examine you. I'm going to give you a pass mark or a fail mark.
Enjoy your
My name is Tony Kelly, and I'm from Birmingham, and I'm a diabetes ambassador for the National Health Service, Birmingham and Solihull National Health Service Integrated Care System. Used to be called Clinical Commissioning Group, but changed its name about a year ago to Integrated. Well, I've been invited down here to the University of East London, Docklands campus, to give an overview of what exactly do I do. So I have some PowerPoint presentations to show information on them, incorporated by in the International Diabetes Federation and the NHS Birmingham and Solihull Integrated Care System. And there's some stuff about Diabetes UK, which is a voluntary organization, charity that's around. So I'm going to share my lived experience, my reality with the participants today, and tell them having diabetes or being told you're pre-diabetes is not the end of the world. You can do things to keep it under check, keep it under control. I must say to the viewers, COVID-19 and coronavirus brought it home to us, the health inequalities that black people in particular were experiencing in terms of being put into intensive care unit, being dying prematurely because of our weakened immune system. And that's what I want to get across. We need to eat healthily. We need to do more physical activity. We need to, and do it as a family, not on your own. If you try and do it on your own, halfway along the line, you'll fall off the wagon and then that's it. So do it as a family, do it as a community. Egg and ghee and cheer each other on to make these lifestyle changes so that we can live healthier lives. Healthier lives include healthier mind and healthier body. The two go hand in hand, physical and mental. You can't do one without the other. And I'm living proof of that. But going back to medical condition, I went for 14 years in the probation service without a day off sick. And my boss said to me, God, you got the gift of the gab. You can chat, you're articulate, you're eloquent. I want you to go to Wolverhampton. There's going to be a big diabetes conference. And I want you in your senior probation officer role to go there and tell the people how you manage and control your diabetes. So I went, and that's where I was at. Wolverhampton at the time was the diabetes capital of Britain. Not anymore. Birmingham has that reputation. I spoke for about 10 minutes without any notes, anything, and a woman from Diabetes UK came and said, come over to Macedonia and help us. You can chat, you're articulate, you're eloquent, people will reach out to you. There's something about you which makes you connect with people. So they trained me, Diabetes UK trained me. At the time, going back 19 years ago, I was getting up 4 or 5 times during the night, as Dr. Patricia Smith said, to go and use the loo, to urinate, to pee. And my wife kept saying, something's wrong with you, something's wrong with you. This is a man's thing. Most men are in denial. Like the ostrich, the largest bird on the planet, at the first sign of danger, the men, most of them, tend to bury their head in the sand, hoping the problem is going to go away. Ladies and gentlemen, does the problem go away? No. Women, at the first sign of an ache, a twitch, or a pain, make a beeline, go see the GP. Men gone to the rum bar, gone play cricket, gone play domino, gone do this, gone do that, gone watch the football match, and they are not in touch with their feelings and their emotions. I will put my hand up and say, I was one of those men. I could take the nagging from my wife no more after getting up 4 or 5 times during the night to go use the toilet, losing weight, so tired, toilet, thirsty, thinner. Those are the 4 classic symptoms. So I went to the GP with a sample of urine before breakfast. This is a patient talking now. Before breakfast, she put something in the urine, held it up to the light, and she said, there is blood glucose or blood sugar, it's the same thing, in your urine, and there shouldn't be any. But she said, for final analysis, I'm sending off a sample of your actual blood to the lab. It will determine whether you have this condition, type 2 diabetes. It runs in my family. So in my case, it's hereditary. It's in the DNA, the genetics, the genes, any of those words you want to use. I had a choice to make. Do I continue to eat 7, 8, 9 tablespoons of rice and peas, which me love, and all of the food which I love, or do I make the behavior or lifestyle changes to keep the complications that I alluded to at bay? So for 19 years with my wife, daughter, and son-in-law, I've ate healthily, and I do a lot of physical activity. which is why I'm able to say I've never taken medication. Some doctors have even tried to say, one doctor I remember clearly telling me, oh Tony, if you take medication, metformin, it will prolong your life. Me just look upon him and say, when did you become God or Jesus to know how long you're going to live on this earth? So that's me. I'm very cheeky sometimes, but you have to be cheeky with dealing with some of these healthcare professionals. So after Diabetes UK trained me, and I used to work for them for about 6-7 years. I got pinched or poached by Birmingham and Solihull Integrated Care System. Back in the day, it was called the Clinical Commissioning Group, CCG, but now it's called Integrated Care System. And I have not looked back in those 12 years of doing this. Gurdwaras, mosques, churches, temples, residential homes, office blocks, plus I go abroad quite a lot to do these events. People see me during lockdown on webinars and Zoom, and they say, no, we want you in the flesh, because you just keep it real, you just tell it as it is. And anybody who has seen me before will know that's my approach. Or what have your disease, acute, then stick to that, non-communicable disease. But China, people who are skinny, thin, in Jamaica would have said mager, can also develop type 2 diabetes. More on that in a bit.
Before we move to the table, when you look at the table, I can see that like the country where Islam is practiced, most of them are from there. Is that because the sweet they eat, or?
I can't answer that. I really can't. But those I know, those have been to me by International Diabetes Federation. But I'll tell you something about China in a bit. Every ethnic group can get diabetes worldwide, and we've chosen this year in particular. In 2021, it is estimated that 537 million people had diabetes in 2021. 537, okay? In 2030, it is going to rise, projected to rise to 643 million people. By 2045, it's going to go up to 783 million people. Now, some people say to me, Tony, that's a long time away. I'm going to ask you to cast your mind back to the millennium. Ladies and gentlemen, what year are we in? Come on. What year are we in? 2024. The millennium was 1999 going into 2000. So here we are, 24 years into the new millennium. So this ain't far. Neither is that one far. So now given that, which some people like to give me, oh, that is far away. Globally, which is why we chose the year 2021, globally diabetes is responsible, and I always put this down, for one death every 8 seconds in the world. Make that sink in. Every 8 seconds in the world, somebody dies from this medical condition. And it is rising. So by the next time Dr. Bakola invite me back down here, it won't be every 8 seconds, it'll probably be every seconds, okay, every 6. But even Usain Bolt, the world record holder for the 100 meters, can't run in 8 seconds. That tells you. Then, 6.7 million people aged between 20 and 79 died from diabetes-related causes in 2021. Go back to COVID-19 and coronavirus. I don't think as many as this amount of people died during that crisis that we had in that epidemic. Diabetes is a major, major killer. And I want you to get that message across. So these people are talking about, oh, it's just a touch of sugar and it's mild and it's no big deal. They need to wake up and smell the coffee or the roses. We're going to come to Britain now. It's important we come. We live in Britain. 5 million people in the United Kingdom have this medical condition. However, this is the important fact. There are around 1 million people in Britain who also have type 2 and don't know they have it because they have not gone and got a diagnosis. And I'm saying to you people here today, especially men, you are to go annually and get your health checks done. It is important. When I go to Jamaica and when I go to America and places like that, every time somebody has to see the GP, it's money, money, and more money. Over here, the National Health Service is completely free. You are to go and get your health checks done. Men in particular who think they're macho and manly and no. Even when they're dead and I go to them grave, nothing wrong with them. Okay? I'll show you this. Just digress one bit. 1 in 4 black men will get prostate cancer. We're talking about diabetes, but I'm bringing this to you as well. Every man in here as a black man is supposed to go yearly and get their PSA blood test done to see where they are on the scale, whether it's elevated or whether it might not be prostate cancer, it might be an enlarged prostate. And just a bit of information for you, the only organ in the human body which increases in size in the male is the prostate, that walnut gland. So it might be an enlarged prostate, it might be prostatitis, you might have picked up an infection, and it might not be, but it is one of the easiest cancers to cure if caught early. But men with they bury their head in the sand like the ostrich, and the wife see them go to the toilet, and them take half an hour to wee and come back, stoppage of water, we call it in the Caribbean. You are to get your men kicking and screaming, grab them, and say, Tony Kelly say, you have to go get your PSA blood test done. And if it's a case of eventually the doctor, whether man or woman, has to do an examination through your back passage, it's called digital rectal examination. That only takes about 10 seconds to feel the size of your walnut to see if it's nice and smooth or whether it's become too lumpy and gone too hard. Stop the foolishness about, you know what, the man put up his finger up your backside. It is about you want to see your children, you want to see your grandchildren, you want to see your wife, your partner. Go and get, have I made this clear? Yes. Right, okay, I'll move on. 1998, 1.4 million people had diabetes in Britain. 2018, it got to 3.8 million. And now we are in 2024, 5 million and rising. 90% of people have type 2. 90% of people with diabetes have type 2. 8% have type 1, only 8%. And then 2% to bring it up to 100% have rarer types of diabetes, which I can't talk about because I'm not medically qualified, okay? I'm now going to show you, without looking at them, the wards in Birmingham where diabetes is rampant. Listen to them, some of them. The higher the graph, Handsworth, Lozells, Aston, Sparkill, Sparkbrook, Alum Rock, Nichel. There are several answers. Shout them out. Why is diabetes more high in those areas? Come on, shout them out.
Race, probably.
Race? Minority? Sorry? Asians? Poverty? There's a particular answer I'm looking for. I haven't heard it yet. Lifestyle?
Eating habits.
Thank you. If you pass, going to Birmingham, and the same would be applied down in London here, or Bristol or Leeds. Every second shop you pass in some of these areas is what you call, some of you like to call it fast food, pretty up the name, or takeaway. Me call it junk food. And these shops, unlike Leafy, Harborne, Solihull, Sutton Coldfield, Selly-Oak, which have fewer people with diabetes, because there are not as many takeaway fast food or junk food. And I'm going to give you a little tip here. You've got to go home and learn to cook. So those of you who work, and you're tired like work and coming home and you smell the nice Chinese takeaway or the nice fish or the nice... You know what you do on a Saturday and a Sunday? So from the belly button or navel string. Why from the belly button or navel string? Come on, why? What's behind there? Come on. Right. This is what Diabetes UK say, and if you don't believe me, go and look on their website. All women should aim for, from the belly button or navel string, 31.5 inches. Now I accept, listen, I accept that some women have had babies, they've had children, they're bigger in size, they're just bigger naturally. So for argument's sake, let's say the woman's size is 40. All I'm begging that woman to do is try and bring it down from 40 to at least 38 to get rid of some of the fat that's around here, which is preventing the pancreas from doing what it should do naturally. Are you with me? Yes. Right. So realistically, who are going to get down to 31.5? Come on. That's not going to happen. Asian men have a waist size of their own. Remember, 5 Asian men are in the top 10. Asian men should aim, this is all on the Diabetes UK website if you don't believe me. Asian men are allowed 35 inches. Again, I stress, not from the trouser size, from the belly button or navel string. 35 inches. Now sometimes when I go to the Asian communities, they might say to me, Tony, the weight out here so. May I watch my weight? That's why I thought this. So. Me say you better haul it in because your weight should not be, your belly should not be that big. White men and black men, we are allowed, believe it or not, an extra 2 inches of 37 inches. Again, from here, sir, not from down here. Are you with me? So by tonight, now, go home, go measure on the husband and on the wife to see which part them there on the scale. Use the travelator. You have travelator at your home? No. So what you're going into the supermarket to stamp on the travelator to go just up there, sir. Your feet were made for walking. Walk, walk, walk if you're eligible to. The 6 kids going into school on the school run, and the mother or grandmother or somebody, guardian, packing them all in the car. I used to have to walk 2 miles to school in the hot sun in Jamaica. It never did me harm, and 2 miles back. You are to get the kids out there, get them off the PlayStation, off the Game Boy, the this, the that. Let them do more physical activity. I'm going to talk about food later on. The other one I'll do is this one. Some of them call me Mr. Motivator. This is plastic bottles, and I'll end here now. This is plastic bottles with water in it. Water. So when it drops, it don't break. And all you're doing, even with the elderly people, you're just sitting down there to bango, calypso, or reggae. One love. And when Dr. Bukele invite me back next time, they muscle them big like this. You know? And then you do the feet as well to go with it. That is physical activity you are doing and getting rid of the calories you've eaten. You're burning them up by doing physical activity. I'm going to stop there now because you need to go ahead. Thank you very much.
My name is Zab Rashid. I'm a podiatrist. I work for the NHS in Tower Hamlets, and I specialise in the treatment of patients with diabetes and foot problems. I'm presenting today I'm going to be talking about diabetes, the prevalence of diabetes around the world. The prevalence of diabetes is much higher in Afro-Caribbean and people from the Indian subcontinent. So disproportionately they are affected by diabetes more, but they also suffer from more diabetes foot complications. So I work for the NHS, and my job here is to educate the attendees in diabetes and how to look after their feet to prevent the complications. Or renal failure, you're on dialysis, the amputation incidence is very high, the highest I should say. Question?
I'm just wondering, what does ESRA stand for?
Yeah, end-stage renal failure. End-stage renal failure. If you're unsure of any terms, please shout out.
It is only for type 2 diabetes? Or?
This is all diabetics. Yeah, but then remember, type 1s only make up a very small portion of all the diabetics. And this is really important, this figure here. 70 to 90% of all lower limb amputations are preceded by a foot ulcer. That's basically saying if you prevent foot ulcer, you will prevent amputation. It's actually as simple as that, and I know that. That's true from experience. And this is just a graph showing, so someone who's had a major amputation, their 5-year mortality is worse than for all of these conditions. Complications we've talked about. So macrovascular are the larger blood vessels, your arteries, that supply blood to your heart, supply blood to your brain, and supply blood to your limbs, particularly your arms, particularly your legs. And then you have microvascular is very small vessel, very small blood vessels. So the kind of blood vessels you find in and around your kidneys, in the back of your eye, and also the blood vessels that supply blood to the nerves, particularly in the feet. So these are the complications. Larger vessel disease, smaller vessel disease. It's almost like diabetes is a vascular disease. Why? Because every single organ of your body has a blood supply. And if that blood contains too much glucose, or there's irregular control of that glucose, you start to get the complications. This is going to be very foot specific, my presentation. So one of the things that we do, if you have diabetes, you should have a foot check once a year. It should be carried out every single year, normally at your GP. So we check the blood supply by, we feel the pulses in the feet. You have 2 pulses, like you have a pulse in your neck, in your wrist, in your arm, in the crook of your elbow. You have 2 pulses in your feet. We check the pulses, we feel them to make sure you have an adequate blood supply to that foot. And if you wanted to know the names of the pulses, It's called the dorsalis pedis artery, which is sort of in between the first and the second toe, just further down the foot, on the top of the foot. And the other one is called the posterior tibial artery, which is just behind your medial malleolus bone. So the two arteries in the foot that we feel. If you can't feel the arteries, you can use a handheld Doppler. It's like a mini ultrasound machine. So you use gel, you apply it to the foot, and then you apply the probe to the gel, roughly where the artery is, and then you listen. You listen to the sound. And the normal sound that you would hear 3 sounds. They call it triphasic. Sometimes you hear 2. So that's how we can, if you can't feel the pulse, it doesn't mean it's not there. You may have to use a Doppler to listen to it. And you can get automated Doppler as well. Some of it is a little bit scientific, this, but I thought I'd include it. I know probably Tony has seen all this before, I'm sure. So part of the vascular assessment, checking for blood supply, is obviously you're feeling the pulses. If you can't feel them, you can use a Doppler. You can do an ABPI, which is basically they check your blood pressure at your arm, blood pressure at the ankle, and they work out a figure, which is your ABPI. When you're looking at blood supply to the feet, you're looking at capillary refill. So what we do, we get the big toe, we press it. So what you're doing, you're pushing the blood out of all the capillaries. And what happens to the skin? It blanches, it goes white. And then you let go and you see how long it takes for the colour to come back. If the colour comes back very slowly, in other words, the capillaries fill with blood very slowly, you have a slow capillary time, that could be a sign of poor blood supply to the feet. Temperature, you check the temperature of the feet. Are the feet cold, even though the ambient temperature is warm? If they're cold all the time, it may be because they have a poor blood supply to that foot or feet. And obviously you're looking at the colour, are they very pale? You have to be a bit careful with Afro-Caribbean skin tones and hues, because you can't rely on colour. Because if someone's got a very poor blood supply, in white skin, their foot might look very pale compared to, say, the colour of the skin on their leg. But that's not always the case with darker skin tones. So you just have to be a little bit careful about that. But of course, if they smoke or have a smoking history, they've stopped, but they used to smoke, maybe heavily, some of that damage from smoking is irreversible. But you can reverse a lot of the damage from smoking. It depends on how long you've been smoking and how often. I've sort of mentioned this. I won't go into that. And that's ABPI. So that's all questions. That's about blood supply to the feet. Any questions about the blood supply to the feet? Question?
I was just wondering, you mentioned what cold feet might indicate, but what about heat?
If the feet are warm.
Yeah, heat, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if the feet are the same temperature as the lower legs.
No, I mean like if there's heat, if they feel particularly hot.
Do they feel hot to the patient, or they feel hot to you, the one who's examining it?
Yes, to the touch.
Well, I mean, if the feet are hot, that wouldn't normally indicate a poor blood supply, but it might indicate they might have an infection. But if the feet are hot, then and they've got an infection, they're likely to have a wound somewhere in the foot as well.
And what if it feels hot to the patient, for example, warm pins and needles?
That's this. This is neuropathy. Nerve damage as a consequence of poorly controlled diabetes manifests itself in the feet, and we call it neuropathy, nerve damage. And you can divide neuropathy into 3: sensory, motor, and autonomic. Sensory neuropathy, the feeling, lots of losses. You can have loss of pain sensation. Tony mentioned an anecdote about someone who stepped on a piece of glass, couldn't feel it, because they've got sensory neuropathy as a consequence of poorly controlled diabetes. I will say poorly controlled diabetes, not just diabetes. Loss of vibration, one of the tests that you have every year if you have diabetes is we check the vibration perception in the feet. Loss of proprioception is loss of your sense of awareness, where you are, feet-wise, like when you put your foot down. Loss of touch, which is a test that we do. Loss of temperature. So you're not able to appreciate hot and cold. I've seen some very nasty burns on feet from people who've gone to sleep. They felt their feet are really cold. They put them near a radiator and they ended up getting a really nasty blister, which then turned into an ulcer. Yeah. Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
Like a bone, like something dry.
Yeah. Oh, okay, right. So that's, I don't want to talk about tendons. We mentioned shoes. So I'm going to go around looking at everyone's shoes now. But if you have diabetes, you need to wear good footwear. They need to be well-fitting. They need to have a fastening. It's better to have a shoe with a fastening. That can be laces, it can be Velcro, it can be a buckle, it can be a strap. But the thing about a fastening will hold the foot in the shoe. If you have a slip-on shoe, then the foot can move around in the shoe, and the skin can get rubbed, and that can cause blisters and calluses. Question at the back.
I tend to wear a lot of kind of like trainers, kind of for day-to-day wear.
Yeah.
What kind of shoes would you recommend for everyday wear? Is there a specific type? Because I know that Tony mentioned earlier, like the Birkenstocks as well. Those are a great shoe, but what other shoes are there available for kind of day-to-day wear, especially when you're on your feet often?
Yeah, I think just basically what I said earlier on, a shoe that is a well-fitting shoe. The thing about, I can go into Clarks, and this because I've got, if you like, standard feet, and a G-fitting shoe will fit me. So, I mean, if your feet are then slightly wider, or if you've got hammer toes, or if you've got bunions, then you have to be a little bit more careful about getting a good fitting shoe. I mean, Clarks, I don't have shares in Clarks, but I think they make good shoes. They often will make the same shoe in two width fittings. So a G, standard, and an H fitting. If you find that they don't fit, you've got companies like Hotter or Echo, more specialized companies. They're a little bit more expensive. But if you care about your feet and you have diabetes, you will spend that extra 20, 30 pounds and buy a pair of shoes that will last you, quite a few years, because they're quality shoes. So if you're not sure, go to Clarks and ask to have your feet measured. It doesn't cost you anything. And then ask to be shown appropriate design. You can mention the fact you've got diabetes and say, I just need a good fitting pair of shoes. I mean, at my work, I just wear formal lace-up shoes. I mean, I have to practice what I preach, but I would wear them anyway. But I guess it slightly depends on what sort of job you do. But at the end of the day, they need to be well-fitting and they need to have a fastening. Preferably leather uppers. The thing about leather, it's a natural product and it conforms to your foot shape. The only thing about leather shoes is that when you first buy them, the leather can be a bit stiff. So they may need a bit of a breaking in period. Otherwise, stiff leather can cause rubbing on the toes and the foot. So they need to be broken into a bit. Avoid poorly fitting shoes. And sort of, shoes with different types of fastening. So you've got laces, a buckle, and Velcro. Once you've had your feet check, this is being standardized across the UK. They'll put your feet in a risk category. It will be low, moderate, or high. Low means you've got normal circulation, normal sensation, no significant deformity or corns or calluses. Your feet most patients with diabetes have low risk feet. If you've got a risk factor, if you've got neuropathy, they've detected neuropathy, you're moderate risk. If you've got poor circulation and neuropathy, or significant deformity or callus, you're high risk. You may ask, risk of what? If you've been listening carefully, risk of what? What are we at risk at?
Blood.
Yeah, ulceration, amputation. Yeah, that's the risk. So at any one time, if you take all the diabetes population, about 70% will be low risk. 20 moderate, 4 to 8 high, and between 1 to 4% of the entire diabetes population will have an active foot ulcer. And we know what ulcers can lead to. Now, it says low risk, it doesn't say no risk. all patients with diabetes, their feet are at risk. It's just it's where you're at, what level you're at. But of course, if you've got the complications, you're more likely to get a worse outcome if you get a foot emergency. So I'm just putting this up. Care in an emergency. If you have diabetes, you need to know what constitutes a foot emergency, an emergency problem, something that needs immediate, and I mean immediate attention. It will be something like discharge, blood, pus, clear fluid, even a blister, any sudden increase in redness, heat, swelling. Whether painful or not, if you've got neuropathy, that swelling, heat and redness may not be painful. If you think you have an infection, and if you have an ingrown toenail, because the statistics will tell you, as if this wasn't obvious already, that the later you turn up in A&E, or later you turn up to see your podiatrist with your foot problem, a foot emergency, the more likely you're going to have a worse outcome. The more likely you're going to end up with an ulceration, eczema, psoriasis. Yeah. Another very rare condition, not confined to people with diabetes. Top marks if you get what this is, if you know what this is. I'll give you a clue. Look, white crystals. White crystals. No? Gout. This person, see how swollen that toe is? That toe is full of gouty crystals, uric acid. And they've got a wound, an ulceration. And inside the ulcer, it's full of this, it's almost like toothpaste. When you take it out, it looks, but sometimes it's got little specks. Gout, it's gouty crystals. Pressure injuries, yeah, pressure injuries. I'm just going to briefly mention ulcers, and just to show you the variety of the ulcers out and where they are anatomically on the foot. The majority of ulcers occur on the bottom of the foot and in and around the big toe. But you can also get ulcers in between toes, what they sometimes call kissing ulcers. This is sort of for your academics, if you like. So presented like this, debrided it, there's your ulcer. But can anyone see anything specific about that last picture? It's the same foot. It's the bottom of the right. It's the bottom of the small toe on the right foot. Can anyone just make out something on there? See that redness? Do you know what that's called? Lymphangitis. It's a sign of a spreading infection. Yeah, that's about as bad as it gets. Someone with severe arterial disease in the foot, very poor circulation, and an ulcer, and the ulceration's down to the bone. And then you've got gangrene, which has been mentioned before. And this is why I threw this one in, because people with diabetes and kidney failure on dialysis, this was such a person. Quite a small, benign, almost benign looking wound on the small toe, turned into that, turned into that. This toe is completely black, and it's like a piece of wood. And it's shriveled. Can you see it shriveled? Because a lot of all the moisture in the toe is gone. We call that mummified. It's got a mummified toe.
So they won't feel it?
It's dead. All the nerves are dead. Everything's dead. So diabetes, end-stage renal failure, worst outcomes. And people can get toe amputations as well as leg amputations. Do's. Some do's if you have diabetes. Do control your diabetes. Easier said than done. I think people with diabetes need to look after their feet in particular. They need to check their feet daily. First thing in the morning, last thing at night. Check all over the feet, in between the toes. If they've got calluses, to file those down. If they have dry skin, to use an emollient to soften the skin. So it's daily foot checks, and they need to know what is an emergency problem. So if they have an infection in their foot, then they need to know where to go to get the most appropriate help.
Hi, my name is Eunice, and after this event, I feel well informed. I think it's given us an understanding of what type 2 diabetes is, how important it is that your food and your diet correlate with type 2 diabetes, and how often we underestimate how quickly type 2 diabetes can develop from being pre-diabetic to actually becoming diabetic. Make good decisions now so you don't have to pay for it later. I think a lot of what Tony was saying and Dr. Patricia Smith was saying was the idea that we often make poor decisions in our younger days that we have to pay for in our older days. So I think just making sure that we're making good health decisions, making sure that we're exercising, we have a routine now. So when we get to those stages, we can already kind of see the symptoms and prevent it as best as possible.
My name is Hilda Mango. I co-chair the Newham Homelessness Action Group. I also co-chair the Rough Sleeping Partnership Board, and I'm also deputy co-chair for the Newham Co-Production Forum. That's the Adults Forum. I do a lot of things with homelessness and housing, but I also attend the Working Together group for community health services. My PP lead is John Louis Kauzeni, that's People Participation Lead. So I met John Louis quite a few years ago, and ever since then we've been working together with lived experience and stuff like that in Newham, doing a lot of co-production and trying to, basically what he was talking about earlier, connect professionals and residents to healthcare and other services and equalities. Last year I invited Paul Bukelo to a diabetic conference at UEL, and that's where this idea was born from. So it's wonderful to see what he's done with it. I personally think it's been a really big success. So I'm looking forward to the next one. So I think it's very niche. I feel like it's very niche, and I might suggest it's opened up a little bit more to more ethnic backgrounds and not just specifically Black African. Because I think although we do have a high rate of diabetes in the UK, I think because there are so many other countries that are also very prevalent with the condition, it would be good to invite them along just for the learning personally. Yeah, I'm all about inclusivity in everything, especially health equity. So I am a living example of generational diabetes. I was not particularly unhealthy. However, I didn't have certain knowledge, and I didn't really take into consideration the later impacts that diabetes could have on my life. I do have diabetes in the family going back generations on both sides, mother and father. So I felt as though it was inevitable. It was an inevitability for me. However, I didn't think I'd be diagnosed with it so young. So it came as a surprise when I got the diagnosis, and I didn't take it very seriously at the beginning. My blood sugar has been quite high because I had a few other situations around housing, homelessness, which very, very greatly impacted my ability to control diet and things like that. So I had my blood sugar spiked a lot. So I've faced a lot of difficulties with this condition. So this sort of topic is very close to my heart. And I think that in our communities, we never really considered it a massive issue, a big disease, and I think that is a problem which we're trying to tackle. Similarly to mental health, in our communities and our cultures, we don't tend to discuss it enough. We don't think it's that important. We barely give them real names, really, these conditions. We just refer to them descriptively, things like, black clouds, when it's actually depression, and it is debilitating to health. So I feel similarly with diabetes. We don't really give it the importance it deserves. Like the speaker earlier, Tony Kelly, said, calling it things like a touch of sugar is not helpful culturally because people think it's a minor thing and it causes death. My grandparents died of it on both sides, mother and father, great-grandparents the same. So I'm hoping that I'm not going to continue with that trend following conferences like this where I learn. Take your health seriously. I think, to be honest, our younger cohort of generation now take their health a lot more seriously than we did. They eat better. A lot of them are more vegetarian and vegan. So it's not so much about that. I think it's more paying attention to changes, I guess, and actually addressing them. So even though you may be healthy, you can still develop diabetes. It just depends on how your enzymes work and your the pancreas's ability to produce insulin. It's not all just about bad health and bad habits, but I think with our younger generation, talk more about your health, not just the mental health. Physical health is also very important, and that's what John Louis and I try to push, the physical health aspect as well as the mental health. We may have partitions in terms of how we address healthcare. For example, we'll look at mental health separately, psychology and biology and physiology. We may look at them differently. There may be different slices of cake, but they're still the same cake. We are one cake, even though there are maybe different slices. Yeah.
Oui, je m'appelle Monsieur Jean-Louis Kauzeni. Donc, je travaille dans les systèmes de santé, on appelle NHS, National Health Services. Et puis, mon rôle, c'est People Participation Lead. Donc, je coordonne People Participation Lead dans les boards de Newham et de Townlet pour les Community Health Services. Donc, je coordonne comment on peut amener ensemble à travailler pour l'amélioration des soins de santé. Donc, je mets ensemble les professionnels de santé comme les clinicians, les médecins, les managers, tout ça, les clinical managers, et puis les patients, donc les personnes qui ont les conditions. Et puis, et à partir de ça, nous faisons des policies, donc nous faisons les guidelines, les guides pour nous conduire à améliorer les soins de santé. Donc c'est ça mon travail. Et je le fais, ça fait maintenant 10 ans que je le fais. Donc aujourd'hui, il était essentiellement d'organiser une conférence pour la communauté congolaise et africaine en général, et concernant le diabète. Donc cette conférence s'est tenue ici à l'université de East London, où moi-même j'ai étudié. Et puis c'était un honneur pour moi d'être invité aussi de participer à la conférence. Donc c'est ça, nous avons eu quelques professionnels de santé qui sont venus, et puis les gens qui ont les diabètes aussi, qui ont parlé de leurs conditions de diabète et comment ils sont en train de gérer la condition sans pour autant prendre les médicaments. Donc la conférence vient de se terminer et je suis très content de l'atmosphère qu'il y a eu, des discussions et puis de ce que nous avons appris, nous tous, parce que chaque jour, quand on se rencontre pendant les professionnels de santé et les gens qui ont les conditions et la communauté, on a toujours quelque chose à apprendre. Merci beaucoup. C'est que nous sommes toujours absents quand il s'agit de problèmes de santé. Donc moi, je travaille dans la santé et je vois ça. Et ça me fait tellement du mal, d'autant plus que nous laissons un endroit vide à d'autres communautés qui participent et qui apprennent beaucoup. Mais nous-mêmes, surtout Congolais, nous sommes toujours absents quand on parle des problèmes de santé. Donc je veux encourager tous les Congolais, et spécialement les jeunes, vraiment à trouver le moyen et la possibilité de joindre ce genre de conférences et ce genre de rencontres prochainement. Donc c'est ça mon appel.
No one really knows why black and Asians develop diabetes at a higher rate than the white population, but there probably is genetic factors, and I think also partly related to diet as well, the diet that those communities consume regularly. So my advice to people who have diabetes, whether it's type 1 or type 2, is to prevent the complications of diabetes. And the best way to do that is to control your diabetes. And that's through a combination of lifestyle changes, which includes diet, taking regular exercise, stopping smoking if you smoke. And it's very generic advice.
Well, you know, the thing about it is that you want to have things that are low in sugar or that has had low glycemic. And, you know, if you know, cakes and so forth are things that you have as treats and so forth. And, you know, everything in moderation. You know, every now and then. But if you indulge yourself in foods that are high in sugar content over a long period of time, then that's damaging to your health. So moderation in all things is very important.
Bon, je suis Papa Paul, docteur Bokelo. Or, le nom officiel, c'est docteur Bokelo Weyalo. Et je suis un médecin diplômé, spécialité gynécologie obstétrique. J'ai travaillé en Belgique, au Luxembourg, au Congo et au Cameroun. Alors ici, je ne suis pas enregistré avec le conseil de médecins, mais bien avec British Medical Association. Mais ce qui ne me permet pas de pratiquer comme clinicien. Alors, qu'est-ce que je fais? Des connaissances que j'ai accumulées, je ne peux pas les garder, voyant les erreurs qui se passent dans la communauté. Et puis, je me suis adonné à aider la communauté en donnant des conseils de santé. Alors, comme on ne peut pas aller n'importe où, ne pas savoir, les gens ne peuvent pas savoir où vous joindre, nous avons fondé avec certains amis de la communauté une organisation. Cette organisation s'appelle Salem Health Project, que je suis en train de diriger. Voilà tout ce que je fais. Et nous avons des réunions, des campagnes, etc., qui regardent la santé à travers Londres. En 2023, j'ai eu ce bonheur d'assister à la conférence annuelle de Newham qui se passe. Il s'est passé la dernière fois, à l'année passée, au campus de East Ham, de l'Université de l'Est de Londres, East London University. J'ai été épaté par les exposés de la dame qui a exposé aujourd'hui, le docteur Patricia, et l'ambassadeur Tony. Je les ai abordés après. J'ai dit, ma communauté souffre. Est-ce que vous pouvez m'aider pour organiser une telle séance pour que les gens vous écoutent? Peut-être que ça va changer quelque chose. Et à cela s'est ajouté le nombre de morts dans la communauté. Le diabète n'est pas la seule cause, mais le diabète peut être la cause d'autres maladies mortelles qui emportent des âmes, qui emportent des jeunes gens. Disons, on appelle ça mort subite, mais non, ce ne sont pas des morts subites comme telles, ce sont des morts prématurées. Les gens qui meurent avant l'âge parce qu'ils ont négligé leur propre santé, le meilleur traitement, c'est celui qui commence par soi-même. On commence par se soigner, son alimentation, son mode de vie, qui constitue le premier traitement. On peut vous donner le meilleur traitement du monde. Si vous vous négligez vous-même, le traitement n'agira pas. Alors cela m'a saisi, je les ai abordés, ils ont accepté de nous soutenir pour cette réunion d'aujourd'hui. Les exposés étaient fantastiques. C'est ce que nous devons entendre, c'est ce que la communauté doit entendre. Alors la seule petite déception, bon, il y a eu des gens qui sont venus, je ne néglige pas le nombre de ceux qui sont venus, mais je m'attendais à beaucoup plus. Parce que nous avons envoyé des invitations dans beaucoup de plateformes, des connaissances, de vraies connaissances, et même dans certaines organisations. Le conseil à donner aux jeunes est qu'ils ne se livrent pas seulement au plaisir. Je crois que le monde appartient aux jeunes. Donc les jeunes doivent s'organiser pour relancer le monde de demain. Nous avons une communauté. Notre communauté n'émerge pas. Il y a d'autres communautés. Le Premier ministre, le ministre des Affaires étrangères, qui s'appelle Lamy, je ne sais pas de quel pays il vient. Je ne sais pas si ces jeunes gens savent qu'il y a quelques années, le Congo était, le Zaïre, à l'époque, était le pays le plus scolarisé de l'Afrique. Je ne mens pas, c'était la vérité. Le Congo était plus scolarisé que l'Algérie, que les autres pays d'Afrique. Ça, je ne l'ai pas eu de moi, mais c'est quelqu'un qui me l'a révélé. J'étais encore au Luxembourg en train de suivre mon stage en gynécologie. Alors, nos jeunes gens, pourquoi se livrent-ils à des choses de plaisir qui n'amènent à rien? Pensent-ils à demain? Alors, je vais tout simplement dire aux jeunes gens, à nos enfants, de prendre les choses au sérieux, de chercher là où ils peuvent être utiles pour eux-mêmes, pour leur famille et pour notre communauté ici. Nous avons cette chance que les gens du pays n'ont pas. Je peux terminer même par ceci. Les plus riches de notre pays, quand ils sont malades, où est-ce qu'ils se font soigner? Ah, mais nous sommes à l'extérieur. Cela veut dire ce qu'ils viennent chercher, nous l'avons ici. Pourquoi ne pas en profiter? J'ai toujours dit ça aux jeunes gens. Les plus riches, même le président, quand il est malade, il vient à l'étranger. Et nous sommes à cet étranger où ils viennent pour chercher des soins. Cela veut dire que nous avons un avantage sur eux. Nous ne payons pas de ticket pour être soignés par notre JP. Pourquoi ne pas nous prendre au sérieux et essayer d'améliorer la santé de notre communauté? J'encourage nos jeunes gens de soutenir, nous, des personnes âgées qui faisons le volontariat, qu'ils viennent nous soutenir. Je sais, ils sont méfiants à cause de ce qu'ils ont entendu de malversations, mais qu'ils cherchent des endroits où les gens sont honnêtes. Voilà le conseil.
So going to the toilet, tired, toilet, thirsty, thinner, thrush and genital itching, slow healing of cuts and wounds, blurred vision, extreme tiredness, weight loss. Those are all the things that might happen. Dr. Patricia Smith mentioned them. Can you all read at the bottom for me, please?
For type 2 diabetes, sometimes there are no symptoms at all.
No, may I put on my teaching hat. That was read very, very weak and franky for so many people in this audience. Can we read it again, please?
For type 2 diabetes, sometimes there are no symptoms at all.
No tired, no toilet, no thirsty, no thinner, no blurred vision.